All right, today we're going to break down a pretty startling analysis from. It's all about that recent meeting between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, and it makes the case that this wasn't just another diplomatic sit-down, but that it actually set the world on a collision course for war.
So the source kicks things off with this really bold statement. The whole argument is basically framed right here. A military strike against Iran, it's not a maybe anymore, it's a certainty. The time for talking is over, a decision's been made, so let's dig into how they build this case.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about this high-stakes meeting. The whole analysis really starts by zeroing in on this sit-down between the American and Israeli leaders. But according to the source, this was no ordinary handshake and photo op. Not at all. They're saying the outcome was basically decided before they even sat down, and the consequences, well, they're huge.
And here's the thing. The source frames this whole meeting not as some kind of back-and-forth negotiation between allies. Nope. They see it as the delivery of a demand, a one-sided demand from Israel that basically trumped everything else. This wasn't a conversation, it was the end of one.
All right, let's get into the real meat of it. Negotiation versus a strike. Because this is where the source points to a major clash, right? A total opposition between what Trump was saying he wanted and what Netanyahu was reportedly demanding. And you can really see that fundamental disagreement right here. On one side, you've got Trump's stated position, right? He believes in negotiation, wants to keep the talks going with Iran to prevent a war. But on the other side, you have Netanyahu's reported demand. And it was blunt. Stop all the talks, right now. Just end the drama, as he supposedly put it. The argument was that, look, Iran's never going to give up its ballistic missile program, so what's the point of even talking?
You know, it's not just about what was said. The source also does this whole body language analysis. They claim if you just look at the people in the room, it tells you everything you need to know. The claim is that Trump's face just shows pure concern. Netanyahu, on the other hand, looks assertive, confident. And other U.S. officials like Marco Rubio, they look visibly worried. It all kind of reinforces this idea that Netanyahu wasn't there to talk, he was there to deliver a decision.
Okay, so if a strike is really on the table, what happens next? What are the risks of war? Well, the source gets into the consequences for the United States, and let me tell you, it does not pull any punches. It paints a really grim picture of the potential fallout.
Get this. The source claims that the probability of an actual U.S. military victory is only about 20 to 25%. Think about that. Even with all the power of the U.S. military, the chances of a clean win are seen as incredibly low. Instead, they argue the potential for just devastating losses for the U.S. is sky-high. And it's not just about the battlefield. The analysis predicts a massive economic hit for the U.S. We're talking skyrocketing oil prices, which would lead to severe inflation. People would rush to safe assets, like gold. And the source actually points out that this is already happening in China, claiming people there are selling off property just to buy gold because they see this global instability coming.
Now, to really drive home how brutal this conflict could be, the source talks about a specific type of weapon it calls 3,500°C bombs. It claims the U.S. gave these to Israel. The allegation is that these things generate heat so intense, we're talking over 3,000 degrees Celsius, that they literally vaporize human bodies, leaving nothing behind. It's presented as proof of the kind of terrifying technology we'd see in this war.
So, what's the big picture here? Who really benefits from all this? According to the source, this isn't just about one strike on Iran. No, this is supposedly part of a much grander strategy, a long-term plan where American military power is basically the main tool to get the job done. And here's how that alleged plan breaks down. Step 1. Provoke a war between the U.S. and Iran. Get the U.S. to start it. Step 2. Localize the battlefield. Keep the fighting focused on U.S. bases in the Middle East, keeping it away from Israeli soil. Then, Step 3. Once Iran is tied up with the U.S., Israel would supposedly start its own attacks on Syria and Lebanon. And what's the endgame? Step 4 is to use all that chaos to achieve goals related to the West Bank. And finally, Step 5. Secure the resources. The plan is apparently to take control of Iran's oil after the dust settles.
And this quote from the source really just sums it all up. They want to sacrifice America. Whether the sacrifice is accepted or not is unknown, but they are ready to sacrifice America. I mean, that's a powerful statement. The conclusion here is that, from the perspective being presented, the loss of American soldiers, money, and stability, it's all seen as a price worth paying to achieve Israel's strategic goals.
So where does that leave us? Is this conflict actually inevitable?
Well, this brings us to the source's final and very stark conclusion. The analysis argues that, yeah, the decision is made. We're past the point of no return.
The central argument here is that the order to attack has already been given. And maybe the most shocking part of the claim is this, that Trump no longer has the political cards to stop it. The idea is that the whole thing is basically out of American hands now, no matter what the president wants or what the risks are to the U.S.
So, you got this final countdown. It's a story of unstoppable momentum. First, the meeting, where Netanyahu supposedly delivered that ultimatum, stopped the drama of negotiations. Then the order. According to the source, the decision to strike is final, which leads to the attack. The only question left on the table is when, tonight, tomorrow, or the next day. So the source is absolutely certain a war is coming. And that leaves us with just one big question. What happens next? Look, by breaking all this down, we've walked through one specific viewpoint from Hakikat TV, a viewpoint that sees a huge conflict as pretty much unavoidable. The key takeaway here isn't to say this will happen, but to really understand the logic, the chain of events that leads the source to this incredibly dramatic conclusion. And it definitely leaves you wondering, what's next?